G'day folks, welcome to another video here on Nick's Vision to Hear. Today we're going to delve into a very big rabbit hole with a long name, Congenital Rubella Syndrome. Long name because it's got a long list of things that are connected to it. All right, let's get into it. So I'm a sufferer of this. I'm 50 years of age, so I was born in 1975. My birthday is in October, so that's why. Okay, let's get into this. So I was born late in 1975. That's an indication to you that in Australia, the vaccine wasn't available until later in the 1970s. So when it was rolled out in America, as far as I know in my research, it was in the late 60s. So there's a gap between when it was distributed worldwide. So that's fine. So let's get that out of the way. Now, people born with this had a multitude of problems that were actually very personal to each person. So let's get into this. The most obvious ones are vision impairment or blindness, hearing impairment or total deafness. They're the main ones that people focus on because they're the ones that people know. Now, many of them had cognitive issues, many had heart issues. In fact, sadly, many children died in the first year of life due to heart problems. Because what happened to children with rubella was many of their organs and many things in their body were not formed properly. There's deformities in them. It's believed that the deafness is caused by the inner ear not developing properly. This is pretty serious stuff, so it goes interconnected right through your body. There's a belief that many people with rubella have small arteries. That would explain probably why many of them died. Many had arteries that didn't close over during their development. There's all sorts of things in that area. Now, I'm not a medical doctor, but what I'm pointing out is what these things are and how they're connected, because they're not isolated. They're part of a bigger picture. And so many of the people with rubella ended up with either type 1 or type 2 diabetes, either from birth or later in life. So this is where the metabolic space comes in. So there was obviously problems in the metabolic area. Now, I've been able to control the diabetes side. I'm in the ketogenic space. I eat a very low carb diet. I'm actually a carnivore. So that's how I control the diabetes side. And so it helps in some other ways as well. It stopped a lot of inflammation in the body. So some of the things that the rubella may have caused are still there, but they're not as severe because it's lowered inflammation. So that's my journey with it. There are other things that have been connected to rubella. Autistic and ADHD traits is something that is pointed out very much in the rubella world. There's a lot of other things. Some of them ended up that some things didn't form to do with limbs. They've had issues with the ability to be able to walk. Some children, in fact, I was actually one of these children. During my development, I didn't crawl. I actually sort of crawled arched with the back of my head on the ground. That seems a little weird to some people, but maybe that's what we did. It was actually a common trait amongst those with rubella. So there's a lot of things went on here. So it's not just hearing and vision impairments. There's a lot of things that went on. So what should we do in our aging lives? Tell every medical professional you come in contact with that you were born with this. There's a reason. You don't just have a heart murmur or a heart condition. You don't just have a vision impairment. You don't just have hearing impairments. You've got a lot of things that are all connected. And that connection is congenital rubella syndrome. So I'm talking to the people who have this right now. Tell every medical professional you come across that you have this. Because when they sit down with you at a computer screen, when they type that in, it's going to bring them up the biggest list of things you have ever seen in your life. It's not one disability or one medical condition. There's a lot that is culminated in this particular syndrome. Now, I'm going to give you an example of something that happened to me, and it's not associated with the rubella, but it does have some links to it in a roundabout way. It's to do with blood pressure. It's a belief that many people with rubella have varying amounts of problems with their blood pressure, whether it be high or low, whatever. But this happened to me because I was born also with haemophilia, which runs through my family, which is a bleeding disorder. Now, I have a very mild version of it. But this happened to me in a hospital, and this made me think that this is something we've got to tell medical professionals, because there's a myriad of problems that could occur with people with rubella. I was having surgery, and with haemophilia, they give you a synthetic blood product to stop you from bleeding during surgery. Now, it seems pretty straightforward, but if that product is put into you too quickly, it can actually cause a problem. The problem it caused to me was my blood pressure went through the floor. I was seeing stars. So let me explain why that's important to tell people this. If you don't tell people, and I told these people that I had haemophilia, but if it's not administered properly, this is where things can go horribly wrong. Now, it may be that my blood pressure is so risky due to congenital rubella syndrome, it may have exacerbated that problem. We don't know. So please tell every medical professional you come across that you have congenital rubella syndrome, because there's a lot of things that they might look at in isolation but aren't isolated. There is a lot that can happen. So please be aware, if you go into the doctor and he checks your blood pressure or looks at your eyes, you need to tell the person the overall syndrome, because it's all linked. And they may have to do a lot more work to find the problem. It may not simply be what's on your medical records. They need to look at the start, not the end. They need to know that you were born with this, because it's very important to make sure they know exactly what they're dealing with. They're not dealing with a highway. They're dealing with a town planning map. And your body is all the roads in that town. And some of them may end up going to dead ends. There's a pretty good reason why. You were born this way. So be aware that your overall health is very important. I'm Nick Pollock from Nick's Vision to Hear. Please do that. Tell every medical professional that you do have congenital rubella syndrome. It's very important. As a sufferer of it, I can tell you that it is a very good idea to do so. You might think you sound like a broken record, but it's very important to do so. They need to know the overall reason that you have all of these things. You enjoy your day. I'm Nick Pollock from Nick's Vision to Hear. Have a great day.